I live in the Midwest, and I've received so many questions, and people want to know why I moved to Midwest. And specifically, I live in the great state of Missouri. But that's not just me. There are so many people nowadays are moving from different parts of the United States coming to the Midwest. Uh, so the question is, why many people in the United States are moving to the Midwest states? Hey everyone, welcome back to the EBM Scholars, and today we are diving into the most fascinating trend sweeping across the United States, and this is the rise of migration to the Midwest. While when we look about the coastal regions, when we look about California, Pacific area, going to Portland, Oregon, going to Washington, Seattle, or we go to the coast of East Coast. Why people from those particular areas are going towards the Midwest, especially in the recent years, we are going to see this shift. Why many Americans choosing to pack their bags and head to the heartland of the United States of America, which is the Midwest. I don't know whether it's the exactly middle, but what we call the Midwest, they're not in the West, they're not in the East, they're in the middle, but we call the Midwest. We're not, there is no Middle East. I don't know why. But what's driving this unexpected movement is going to be attributed by so many reasons behind this phenomenon. So I'm going to give you some of these reasons. Number one is the allure of affordability. This has been the biggest factor and the most significant, luring people to come to the Midwest. If you compare the skyrocketing type of cost of living in the coastal cities and that of the Midwest, obviously the Midwest is going to give you a fresh air, a place to breathe from the complications and the stress of the high cost of life into those particular areas. Housing prices in particular are significantly lower if you compare Midwest states and the states like if you talk about Florida, talk about California, talk about New York, talk about New Jersey, talk about other rich, almost expensive part of the states. And if we take the one particular example, the median home price for San Francisco and California, for example, is just the median is just $1.4 million home. But if you go, let's say, to Iowa, the median is just about 250,000. This translates to the significant saving and allowing individuals and families to stretch their budget further and just achieve their higher standard of living. That means you'll be able not just to have 2-3 jobs in order to just to live on the paycheck, but in Midwest you can have just 1 job or 2 jobs and have a room to play with your family, your kids around, instead of just all the time spending on working over and over, so that you can be able to do that. And this is just the cost of living is just the beyond housing. The affordability goes beyond just the housing. The cost of everyday expenses like groceries, utilities, transportation generally is lower in the Midwest compared to those other parts. And this is going to contribute to more financially sound lifestyle if you come to the Midwest. This economic advantage is particularly attractive to young professionals and also people who are going to be to retire, and the families seeking to establish themselves without feeling the constant financial strain like in other parts of the country. For instance, myself, I lived in California for about 8-9 years before moved to Midwest back in 2016 when I moved 2016. So up to this year, 2024, I have been here in the Midwest for quite some time at the moment. And I have no regret relocating from California to the Midwest. And now we have what I usually tell people, the positive impact of the pandemic is the revolution of the remote work. So the COVID-19 pandemic made just the biggest game changer. Before then, people didn't know that I can have the option of working 100% full-time from home. So the rising of the remote work opportunities, many individuals are no longer just have to be living in a specific locations. Why should I specifically live in New York? But I can live in Missouri, I can live in Kentucky, I can live in Arkansas, I can live in Ohio, wherever it is. I can live in these more affordable states, but to work remotely for a New York company. I can be paid like I live in New York, but I don't live in New York. So the newfound flexibility has empowered a lot of people to explore new living options. That means I can live in the Midwest as a prime destinations, but I can work in Palo Alto, California. I can be having work for a company in California, an IT company, but I live in the Midwest. So instead of buying $1.5 million home, I can buy just $200,000 home in the Midwest, but I can be working there. Maybe you go there maybe 2-3 times a year for specific staff meetings or something like that. You can be able to do that. Just imagine yourself being into a big apartment or a house with a nice backyard, enough backyard. Your kids can be able to play around. So, and you can be able to maintain the same income. So instead of having a small, tiny apartment or town home and paying millions, and you don't have a backyard, it's difficult to raise a child in those particular areas. You can have all those kind of things and keep your job while you live in Midwest. So that has been a good attractive that Midwest is going to have the lower cost of living, and the people take the opportunity of work from home as advantage of coming or to relocate to Midwest. I have a friend, they've been living in California for, the entire family have been living in California for more than 15 years or nearby 18 at the moment. The person, their home is about $1.7 million home, but it's a very tiny home. But they are originally from Michigan. So what they did, they talked to their company. They'll be working remotely full time. They moved from California. They live in Michigan, and they get the same salary, but they don't need to have $1.7 million home just to do that one. And if you go further, it's beyond the hustle and the bustle. It's not just about the finances and the convenience which are attracting people to come to the Midwest. Nowadays, Midwest is going to offer the distinctive cultural experience compared to the fast-paced, competitive environment of the coastal cities. Many individuals nowadays are drawn to the slower pace of life, strong sense of community, and emphasis on the family values prevalent in the region of the Midwest. When I was moving from California to Midwest, myself, I come and see here you can have a family values, you can a neighborhood, you can have a community, not just those big complex type of lifestyle. So people want to have just that convenience beyond the financial part, but the individuals to have the slower pace of life, to slow down in terms of the life of that particular nature. But apart from that, also if people want to have culture, so Midwest cities are vibrant cultural scenes. You have museums, art galleries, theaters, and so forth and so forth. And obviously, in the most recently, we see the rise. That's why also Midwest, Kansas City will be among the cities to host World Cup. Midwest will be hosting. So the stadium for Kansas City Chiefs will be the one, will be having 6 games. Remember, in the World Cup 2026 coming up, the only stadium with more games is 7 games in the entire World Cup 2026. But Kansas City will have 6 games. And apart from hosting the games, other teams from other places will be allowed to come to train with the stadium, at the stadium of Kansas City Chiefs and other stadiums. So it's going to be growing a lot when it comes to the homes, to come to the jobs, to the business, to the lifestyle, to the culture, barbecue, so forth and so forth. So Midwest is going to offer all those kind of things, which is attracting people more and more to come here. Yes, I know some of the metropolitan cities in Midwest, they have some sort of situations where we are talking about the safety when we talk about St. Louis sometimes, or we are talking about Chicago, but still these cities have been the cornerstone of the Midwest. But with time, I know things will be coming down, but the richness and the vibrance of culture and the diversity which is keeping growing in the Midwest communities is the bigger factor to attract so many people to come here. So, there are so many job opportunities, particularly when it comes to not too fast, too what we call fast-paced industries, but you can be able to do here and be able to live in the Midwest. So we are seeing the influx of people coming to the Midwest. So if you are planning to relocate to the Midwest, you can do your research. Which state in the Midwest do you like most? Because within the Midwest, there are changes. I mean, there are some of the variations. The life in Arkansas will be different from Iowa, will be different from Michigan, different from Minnesota, different from Missouri, different from Kentucky. So it will be a little bit different. And some people, they will look like, yes, both are Midwest, which I don't want the severe winter, so I don't want to go to live in Minnesota. I can come down a little bit to Kansas area, or I can go a little bit to Missouri, or I can go a little bit to Kentucky instead of certain place. So you'll be able to look what are you going to be attracted to is the factors to go to locate from one region you are to come to the Midwest. So personal, I will continue to live in the Midwest for quite some times. Yes, sometimes we have humidity, which is a very high humid during the time of the during the time of the summertime. Yes, each particular state in the United States has its goods and the bad. You talk about California, there is fire. You talk about Midwest, there are tornadoes sometimes. You talk about Florida, there are hurricanes, there are alligators everywhere. So each place, they have their own good and bad. So you have to choose which state in the Midwest is going to give you what you really want and what you are looking for in the future. So that is myself explaining why I decided to move from the great state of California to Midwest. And obviously, most of the Midwest, they don't have high tax, state tax, like in California and New York. So those are the things I want to point out if you are among the people who are trying to move to the more affordable lifestyle, slower pace of life, closer to the connection to the nature. Midwest is going to provide a compelling alternative to the traditional coastal destinations. While it's not for everyone to come to live in this type of lifestyle, the region itself is very unique, but the affordability, opportunities, and community are the cornerstone to bring more Americans to the Midwest. Thank you for joining us today at the EBM Scholars. And if you are considering to move, here is the best area to move and start your life, or to retire if you are looking for retirement. Thank you so much. Again, this is EBM talking from Belton, Missouri, United States of America.